Some of us are begging to be out of the dark night of the soul, right? We know and we can openly admit the dark night of the soul experience sucks, but it's all happening for a good reason. It's bringing us into closer connection with who we truly are before conditioning grabbed hold of us and changed us and warped us in certain ways, and the ego grew and things like this. So we're going to talk about the 5 challenges, though, that you may face after your dark night of the soul experience. Now, we know that the dark night of the soul can last in many people a very, 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 very long time. And I don't say this insensitively. I don't, because I have deep compassion for people that are going through it for years and years and years. But mine was done rather quickly. It took about 18 months in total of the real darkness to come out of me. And I feel deeply that was because my process was accelerated by the correct Sardar. Sardar just means your daily spiritual practice to bring about the highest aliveness of intensity of energy in the system, so that we can bring about the highest potential in our life. Now, that's no mean feat, that's an incredible opportunity that we're gifted because of the dark night of the soul. Sometimes we don't do the work, though, and I'm not saying if you're stuck for years that you're not doing the work, but in my experience, the only work is yoga. Now, yoga can mean many different things, and of course there's plenty of other modalities. I'm actually working with somebody at the moment who's using Qigong, and that seems to work too, of course. But it's the only way I went, and I got through the pain really, really quickly thanks to my teacher passing down the teachings to me, and also thanks to him teaching me how to teach too. Now I'm able to use my experience to help other people through that experience as well of the dark night of the soul. If you're going through that and you feel that there's something here in this one that might be able to aid you in your journey, then you're more than welcome to sign up for the 6-month immersion training. It's fully one-to-one. It takes a lot from me and it's exhausting. So only apply if you're really up for that, because it's going to take a lot of investment physically in yourself and also monetarily too, as any sort of natural training would do. And if that's not what you're into, then you can also just sign up for the Dark Night of the Soul training course down below. There's some free bits in there to help you too as well. Down below there's a free breathing practice, a free introduction to Hatha Yoga, and a free community if you get stuck and you just want some comfort. Back to the video, because sadhana is so important. But now we'll go back to the video because this bit was also important. Perhaps some things that you've perhaps not thought of, maybe that might come up in your journey. And so we bring in a forewarning, and don't be scared. These aren't bad things, really, not really at all. But they will be challenges. So let's dive into it. The first challenge after the Dark Night of the Soul is that you're going to have to decide who you want to become. Now, we can start out with weak, cheap ideas of who we want to become, isn't it? And sometimes we think we want to be a millionaire. I know I did. And I sit there now and I think, gosh, you cheap bugger. What do I mean by that? Because being a millionaire isn't cheap, but it's hollow, shallow, isn't it? But this was my dream. My dream was for abundance, right? Back then. And so what do I mean? Well, we have to decide what we want to become. Do we want to become the most integral person that we possibly can? This is more of that kind of, and I'm not knocking anybody, but maybe we want that desire to be the most integral, most authentic, most best good feeling. Really bad English, Jamie. Well done, you. I've got a law degree as well. Who'd have thunk it? Do I want to be do I want to feel the greatest that I possibly can? Do I want to bring my human body physically into the best peak of its performance? What is it that we want to become? Because here we almost get that freedom moment where we don't get to choose, because in a way life takes hold of you too, but It's a co-creation with life, isn't it? You have some desires, yes, and you'll get them probably, yes. We don't want to put a glossy seal over it, because maybe you won't, you know. Maybe life will be really cruel, and sometimes life is cruel, and we recognize that. But life is always guiding you to that next best thing, or the next level up, or that next bit of growth that you need for you, so that you can serve you and your community in the best way possible. This is what it is, isn't it? It's a life of service. And if you're going through the dark night of the soul, please recognize that you're being chosen for a life of service. But Jamie, how on earth does that work? Because I can't serve people feeling like this, and that's fair. I will openly admit, if you see some of my videos at the start of my journey on YouTube, I'm still in the dark night of the soul. You know, I'm just doing my best to try and help people with the information that I have. You're not valueless in your pain. Your suffering has brought about some really amazing perspectives that you can share and help people with. So that's the first challenge. You'll have to decide what you want to become. Are we going to become cheap or rich? And what do I mean by that? Am I going to go for material things? Guilty, been there, done it. But you'll get those material things and you'll go, wow, I sold out, isn't it? It's okay, you know, I'm not knocking it because it's necessary to sometimes desire these things. That's the things that pull you through, isn't it? And then we get all of those things and we go, oh dear, I got it all wrong, didn't I? It was never that was going to make me happy, because it's never going to be anything outside of myself. And that's the real opportunity of the dark night of the soul, is this will all change for us. 2, and this probably is the most important, the second challenge you will have after the dark night of the soul is doing your practices in the same intensity. Why? Because there's no pain driving you. When you're pain-free, of course, there's always going to be pain in the system, yes. But the dark night of the soul is reoccurring pain, isn't it? Based upon something that we're doing or believing about ourselves to be true in that moment that isn't. And so that pain will stop. That, you know, that tight knot in the belly will come to an end. You may still feel it once in a while, but it won't be reoccurring. It will be relevant because there's something there for you to see about yourself so that you can grow. But the reoccurringness of it will stop, and therefore so will the drive to get on the yoga mat so much. Because the pain was the one big reason why we got on the yoga and did our pranayamas, isn't it? So that we could clear through this pain as fast as possible. Well, then when the pain's gone, what's there to drive you? And that leads me to the third challenge. We then have to switch over from pain being our fuel to inspiration being our fuel. And beyond that, then service becomes our fuel. You know, it's almost like at the start, we need to feel good to act, right? And as we go through this journey, we can call this inspiration. And as we go further onto our journey, perhaps we just act. Why? Out of the goodness of our heart? Maybe. Out of the service of another being? Yes. It's all selfish though, really, because really it's for us, it's to nourish ourselves, isn't it? Because in giving to other people, it feels amazing. It's why I do this. It's why I keep getting on the mat, actually. I no longer do it for me. Maybe this is wrong thinking, but I do it for you. So we have to switch from pain as a fuel source to inspiration as a fuel source. And that can be a tricky thing, because sometimes we are blocking the inspiration that will naturally flow through us, these creative ideas, these creative manifestations inside. Sometimes we block them. Well, how might we block them? Well, we block them through lifestyle choices. I know, as a heavy drinker in the dark night of the soul, and some of you will resonate with that, isn't it? Because we're not quite strong enough to feel the pain yet, and that's absolutely fine. And so we avoid it in our aversion tactics through drinking, smoking, whatever it is that we do, right? But then comes that mature moment when the nervous system's ready, where we have to switch to inspiration. We don't have to, it's your life, but we want to switch to inspiration as a fuel source rather than pain and fear. And those things can block that, like doing bad habits. It can block that creative flow that you are inside of yourself. Number 4, the fourth challenge is you have to decide, or there will come a point where you'll have to decide whether you want to continue on the spiritual path. Let's put this scenario out there. Let's say you've healed most of your pain. Well then, do you want to continue down this path. For some people, it won't be relevant to. For some people, healing this pain means I'm done, I'm ready to go out and go and be a fisherman or something, and this is okay. But you'll bring those spiritual elements that you've learned into that fishing, and you'll probably become the best fisherman that's known, right? But for some of us, we want to continue down this path. We want to see what life has to offer for us and to grind down our karma enough so that we can jump off the wheel of samsara. Well, what does that really mean? Well, samsara is this idea, isn't it, that life is this cycle that's never ending, and to get off of this means to end life, but not in a suicide way. It means to become everything. At least this is my understanding of it. I'm open to being wrong. If you have a different understanding of it, more than welcome to comment down below, and I'd love to hear your perspective. Number 5. So 4 was you have to decide if you want to continue down this path, because for some people it's enough. And number 5, the challenge will be to stay humble, to recognize that even though I've gone through all of this pain, and what a great job I did, or what a great job God did to save me from this. You meet, don't you? God and you, life and you meet. There's a co-intention created of healing, and you meet through your practices that energy that heals you. And then we have to recognize that even at the end of the dark night of the soul, the healing isn't done. There are still going to be subtle afflictions in the mind, subtle lenses that we're seeing through, subtle cultural biases that aren't necessarily causing us pain, but that still aid us to see life in a slightly distorted way. And so it's good to be able to admit to ourselves, okay, I don't know whether I want to keep going on this journey, but I know that the healing's not done. Not yet, isn't it? For the healing to truly be done, perhaps we even need to see in some small glimpses that nothing needed healing. We are an unfoldment that is divine in its unfoldment. Every aspect of us needed in that moment to propel us to the next step. Well, though, when we've got no pain to propel us, what will propel us? That's why we switch to inspiration or deep connection to beingness and God or life or Allah or Brahman or whatever it is that you want to call it. And this, in a sense, is where purpose starts, isn't it? We're then deeply connected to purpose. Well, what does that really mean? It means we're doing the best that we can relative to the whole, and whole includes God. Serving people to the best of our ability, serving the Almighty, and living in the grace of God's love. I hope this helps. Have yourself a lovely evening. Namaste.